This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Access to affordable credit helps me pay my employees, but I don't really need it.
Inflation is killing me. But who cares? Big retailers are making record profits. That's why we support the Durbin Marshall credit card bill.
See? Banks and credit unions help small businesses make payroll. This bill would cut the vital resources they need,
While increasing megastore profits. They deserve it, don't they?
Tell Congress, stop the Durbin Marshall money grab for corporate megastores.
Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Welcome to the Irish NFL Show on the Believe Network, brought to you in association with QuinBet. Loving our new draft team there, which in no way sounds like the Hives, and let's hope that their intellectual property people didn't hear that. It's nothing like that Hive song that we all remember from the early 2000s. The hour is almost upon us because 1 a.m. Friday morning, we will be live from the Arlington Hotel in Dublin watching the first round of the draft. We hope you'll watch it with us as we react to the players coming off the board, make a bunch of predictions about what's going to happen next, which will occasionally, miraculously, be proven correct, but which will mostly be hilariously wrong, because that is what the NFL draft is all about. In a nutshell, people who think they know what they're doing and are fully confident in their predictions about the future, that will mostly be wrong. General managers, coaches, and analysts alike, we all fall into the same boat. Brian Kieran and Kieran with me, Conor Brophy, for our last look ahead to the big day before the big day itself. There's plenty of late-breaking pre-draft drama to get through as well. Kieran Boyle, let's start with Dexter Lawrence and the trade that everybody was expecting to happen, as the mood music suggested that the Giants and Dexter Lawrence just couldn't come to a pay deal, to one of the teams that were most likely to move. A first-round pick heading from the Bengals to the Giants, the number 10 overall selection, which means the Giants picked twice in the top 10 now for Dexter Lawrence. Who got the best of this deal?
Well, I mean, listen to various people, it's hard to say, but I mean, personally, I think the Giants got the winner out of this. I was sitting on the couch about just after 9:00 Saturday evening watching some SEC baseball, and Adam Schefter's name and everyone else came up on my phone. I was like, oh, this could be big. So a big surprising move. I mean, I mean, it's not a surprise that he was traded, but where he went to. And listen to the Dan Patrick show this morning. I mean, Dan Patrick's got a huge amount of sources he's built up over the decades, and he was saying that essentially Joe Burrow, put the screws to the Bengals GMs and the front office, saying, unless you guys figure out this defense, I'm walking out the door. I can't do this anymore. I can't play in a team that's this paper thin on defense. So I have to think they were not bullied, but coerced a little bit into making that move. I think at 10, I mean, it's various kind of ways you can go with this, but a 10 for the Giants is a massive win. It's kind of out of the Bengals, out of their wheelhouse a little bit. It seems to me a little bit in haste on the Bengals part, but I mean, if you're a Giants fan, you got to love it. I mean, you're getting a 10. I know a lot of people were wondering what else they were going to get after the details were ironed out, but I'd be perfectly happy with listen, I know Brian's not agreed with me, but I would have taken a 2 based on the fact that his performance was so downhill last year and the fact that his body language was so bad. I think you look a little bit further back to this, and another one of our Believe Network partners, Carl Banks and Dexter, got into it a little bit in the fall. And I think Dexter, that took him aback a little bit, because, you always see him as that kind of cuddly, that face of the franchise, doing that dance. He's almost like a family, persona. And I think he was very taken aback by Banks's kind of bluntness in what he said. So that was probably the start of the slide, notwithstanding all the Joe Shane stuff. But I think the Giants have to be ecstatic at what they got with this. Now, the problem is, we've been here before in 22 with the 5th and the 7th, and that was depends which way you see it. But I think that was a disastrous first round draft. So listen, everything's there for Shane to either, go down the flames or to cover himself in glory, along with Harbaugh and Aponte, and see how we do with this. But I would have to say that the Bengals rushed into it, maybe a little harsh. But based on what I heard today on the radio, it seems like they were kind of pushed into doing it. But the Giants will be ecstatic taking the 10 after all that transpired with a player on a down year who had no desire to stick around and wanted out.
Kieran Donovan, I have a hunch that you don't necessarily agree fully with that point. Just, I don't know, my little spider sense is tingling over here.
A slight pushback. And on first, when I first heard of this trade, I have to say I caught it along the exact same lines as Kieran. I was thinking, like, here you have the Bengals who let their marquee defensive player walk out the door because they didn't want to pay him. And now they're taking a perceived marquee defensive player from another team who they're going to have to pay coming off the back of a down year. And so I was thinking, absolutely, Kieran, I would have said that on first look. Absolutely, the Giants got the best look. I listened to friends of the show now, Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo, check the mic. And in fairness, I love their analysis because it is always based on statistics and fact. And they had a different view on Dexter Lawrence and what he could provide to the Bengals. And Steve Palazzolo in particular, he made the point that even in a down year last year, and to be fair, Craig, in your reaction, Brian, Craig said the same thing. And you guys are you're way away. You keep a closer eye on Dexter Lawrence than I do. He's always double teamed, and though his I suppose his own production might have been down last year, his pressure rate is still extremely high. He takes a huge amount of attention, and they were crediting a lot of what Brian Burns was able to accomplish to the fact that Dexter Lawrence took so much attention. They also kind of schooled me anyway on the intricacies of what a nose tackle actually does for a team. And basically they're of the opinion that Dexter Lawrence is still capable of being one of the best nose tackles in the modern era. And when you look at the Bengals, and they have pieces coming together, Boye Mafe last year for the Seahawks, who they've acquired, while he kind of ranked in terms of his own production, again, in terms of what he was able to finish, middle of the road, top 50 defensive player, his pressure win rate was in the top 10. And so if Dexter Lawrence can get the best out of Boye Mafe, if Shamar Stewart can have a bit of a second, I suppose a far better second season than his first, which was, to be fair, a bit of a car crash. He was, I suppose, the worst, technically the worst first round pick last year, but he still has that raw athleticism. You can kind of see a lot of pieces coming together potentially on this Bengals defense, and all of a sudden you start to think, okay, maybe there is a bit of hope. And if Dexter Lawrence is what he can be, I mean, getting a multiple Pro Bowl player as opposed to what potentially a top 10 pick could be in what everybody agrees is a bad draft class by comparison to other years, then you'd say, look, the Bengals were absolutely right to say a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And then on the Giants side of things, I think this trade has the potential to be win-win, because if the Giants get it right, they now have so many options with what they can do with two picks in the first round. And there's all kinds of combinations. They can split it, go defense, offense. They could go all in and put a few players around Jackson Dart to build an offense around him, which I actually have them doing in taking Francis Mauigoa and Carnell Tate. They might even execute a trade to go up and get Jeremiah Love if they feel like he's worth going up and getting. They might even trade down and directly address their need now at defensive tackle, which is still a weakness, but you're not going to use a top 10 pick to take a defensive tackle and actually, replace like for like. So I really do believe that it could potentially be win-win, but as Craig pointed out in your reaction the other day, or just only yesterday, sorry, Joe Shane is under massive pressure now because this is the second time in 5 years he's had two top 10 picks. And so the pressure really, really is on Joe Shane. And I do actually believe that Joe Shane is in one of the biggest no-win situations, because if he gets it right, everybody's going to say, well, that was Harbaugh. Harbaugh made the decisions. If he gets it wrong, it's going to be all on Shane, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to try and thread the needle between what both of you have been saying, because I agree with a lot of column A and column B here. I think, as it looks right now, I do agree with Kieran Boyle that the Giants have probably just about edged it. Picks and the value of picks, I don't think there's an entirely objective standard that you can apply here. And, people have the Jimmy Johnson trade valuation yardstick that they use. And, Nobel Prize winning economists who have much bigger brains than I could ever bring to the problem have looked at what is the objective value of draft picks and how you can value them. But I think they are ultimately context dependent. The number 10 pick for the Cincinnati Bengals looks a lot different than the number 10 pick for the New York Giants. It depends what stage you are. And to Kieran Boyle's point, the pressure that's on you or not on you to win now. The Bengals risk losing Joe Burrow if they don't do something this year. They can't miss the playoffs again. Like, I just don't think there's any way. I think you were actually saying this, Kieran O'Donovan, in the WhatsApp group, and I think you're exactly right. If the Bengals miss the playoffs this year, like, is there any way that Joe Burrow hangs around? Like, he just wait.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
One of the greatest talents we've seen in the history of the game in a team that cannot get it done around them, that has made misstep after misstep after misstep, that have managed their business poorly. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of the early reporting on this has been very critical of the Bengals, because it is an awful lot to give up, a top 10 pick. Although I do think you have to leaven that with literally everybody's been saying this is not a class that's deep at defensive linemen, in particularly in the interior. So everybody's been saying that you can't get a player anywhere near as good as Dexter Lawrence in the draft. So the Bengals used their top 10 pick to get a player as good as Dexter Lawrence. They got the actual Dexter Lawrence. You can't have it both ways. So I think that's a little bit unfair on Cincinnati. You can't say, oh, and they're paying him $28 million. Oh, and it's only going to be 1 year, and expecting it all to go wrong just because it's the Bengals. You're only going to get a player like that. He's only going to become available if something goes wrong. He's coming off a down year. He, like to Kieran Boyle's point, didn't look completely happy last year in New York. But if you look at the numbers, and as you quite rightly point out, Sam Munson and co have done, he eats double teams. Dexter Lawrence has faced 1,107 double teams over the last 5 years. That's 117 more than the next highest, which is Jeffrey Simmons. Pass rushing is not an individual sport, no more than football is an individual sport. It's a team sport. Teams that have elite pass rushers have someone who complements their elite pass rusher. Even Myles Garrett doesn't do it all on his own, as special as he is. If the Bears had traded their 25th for Dexter Lawrence, I would have been absolutely delighted, because he would have unleashed Montez Sweat. He takes two players out of the game every single time. He would have been thrown out, oh, you only had a half a sack last year. The Giants were one of the top 10 pass rushes in the NFL last year with Dexter Lawrence on the field. They were one of the bottom 5 without him. What does that tell you? He activates the players around him. He is a force multiplier. He's the best nose tackle in the game, and the Bengals have got him. And if they could do something with him, they might just hang on to Joe Burrow. It's pressure on Joe Shane now to make use of those top 10 picks that they've now secured. Brian.
I would probably agree with a lot what's been said, in particular on the fact that I do think Joe Burrow has put the pressure on here, because if you look at what the Bengals tend to do, they love first round picks. I mean, essentially they try to eat them up for 4 to 5 years, even to give them the extension, the 5th year option, and then let them walk and bring in another player. Jesse Bates, safety, great season when they went to the Super Bowl, let him walk, brought in Hill. We've seen Hendrickson walk out the door. They believe they brought in Stewart last year. It took a long time for the contract to be resolved. They expect him to step up. This is kind of what they do time and time again. They don't necessarily even hang on to these players for their second round of contracts. So for them to go down this road, for me, absolutely signifies that the frustration is growing internally, that they should be challenging year in, year out. And it hasn't been the case. And this ultimately is probably the last chance saloon for the head coach. Because you joked about it, Conor, during the offseason. You look at the 4 head coaches in the division, 3 moved on. And the one who you felt was the most under duress to stay or to be gone was the one that essentially said, I think this is his last chance to get it right. I still think it's a bit of a gamble in the sense of there's other holes in defense that need to be shored up. They brought in Jonathan Allen in, who had a huge time with the Commanders. I thought he was brought in to essentially do what Dexter's there to do now. So they double down on a defensive tackle. When I think the sort of position in the defense, all will be revealed in terms of how this plays out for the Bengals. But look, I understand the merits of why both teams have gone down this road.
Well, Brian, we're talking about a move where there was intense speculation and then it happened. There's now intense speculation that on Thursday, one of the teams that we'll see do business in the early part of the first round is the Chiefs. A lot of smart money now heading in the direction of the Chiefs, saying they're going to trade up and they're going to try and do something. Who's the likely trade partner and what is it that they're going to try and do?
I believe they want to secure the offensive line. Kind of, you think about the times in which Mahomes has been so successful. They've been solidified offensive line, and then the 2 years in which they went to the Super Bowl and he was, chased around from pillar to post was those 2 Super Bowl losses against the Bucs and against the Eagles, and they didn't get it right last year. And I just think, from reading all the conversations and various stories today, Andy Reid is hell bent on putting the offensive line in front of Mahomes again. Mahomes is going to come back. It's probably not going to be Mahomes we've seen in the past for early on in the season as he transitions back into the NFL after serious injury. There's a lot of talk that they're just not comfortable sitting there at 9, knowing that particular offensive line that they're after could go to the Saints in particular. So where do they go? I mean, I'm not going to go for. I think you're exhausted at the stage of talking Giants, but it just seems like the standout one that they move up to 5. I don't think the Titans would move off 4 because I think the Titans are actually now in a really striking position where there's a lot of conversations today. It's Reese or Bailey may fall because Love may go a 3 to the Cardinals. Then all of a sudden the Titans are in a situation where they could get arguably the best pass rusher in the draft. That kind of strikes me as the Giants could potentially move back to 9, let the Chiefs move up. But it's compelling, the story today, that the Chiefs are just not happy, and they're not happy with the fact that, one, they didn't make the playoffs. Mahomes' injuries are coming along nicely, but they're concerned about him, and this looks like an obvious move. And the Chiefs obviously want to make a marker, and they've still got that pick later on in the first round, so they could obviously double down, get another player. So interesting nugget that's going around today is that the Chiefs are very keen to get up into the top 5.
Kieran Boyle, I was listening to Todd McShay earlier today, and he was saying at some point you're going to see a run on O-linemen. There's only so many to go around here. There's a lot of needy teams. They were the ones, led by Todd McShay, saying, I think the Chiefs are the most likely to move here because they're one of the ones who are in most desperate need, and they'll want to take the best guy off the board if they have a chance at all to do it, as Brian was saying, because that's what Andy Reid wants. He's seen Patrick Mahomes go down with the nasty injury. They can't afford to lose any of Patrick Mahomes' prime because that prime is the key to winning Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean, we did speak earlier about, or a couple of weeks ago, about how the Chiefs' O-line kind of solidified after the kind of car crash that was the Super Bowl in New Orleans. So it is a need like every other team. So you'd be looking at obviously at 9 Fano or Maui Noah, but I mean a lot of speculation what the Chiefs will do to their pick. I think they're going to stick where they are and use those 3 top 40 picks and just get the best player available. I mean the thing with the Chiefs is they're not rebuilding. They just had a really bad year with offense and they weren't able to capitalize on any of the close games that they won in 24. So on top of the O-line and the work that they'll need to do on that, I still think they're going to aim for somebody like Ruben Bain at 9. Then that wide receiver spot at 29. See if Tatus is maybe hanging around down there. See what kind of corner is available. You're looking at edges as well. Is there going to be a decent edge? George Karlaftis has 6 sacks last year. We talked about Dexter kind of being double teamed and stuff in the box. Jones is the same kind of player. He just is like a magnet. He attracts those other players, which will free up Karlaftis. So you might see them going for Bain at 9 on the other side of the edge, just destroying those O-lines. So a lot to look for. I think the Chiefs. I think they like where they are. I think they have 8 picks in total, and it's not panic stations. I mean, Veach, we've seen in the last couple of years, has done some great work in the draft, but he's also done some questionable, especially on the offense, especially wide receivers. So I would look for them to definitely add a wide receiver.
I suppose as well, Kieran, warming to your team here, if somebody does make a move up to take Jeremiah Love, who, after Mendoza has gone off the board, is arguably the best player in the draft, or is the consensus most talented player in the draft, that changes the equation then because it pushes everybody else down a spot, and you may get that pass rusher, that elite pass rusher at 9, and it might see the Chiefs stand pat.
Yeah, and we don't even know right now. Obviously, we'll know more Thursday, but it might go edge heavy the first 5 or 6 picks. It might go O-line heavy the first 3 or 4 picks. So all the prognostication and the predictions that we've been looking at might go out the window as soon as.
And if that happens, by the way, I think you're going to see a lot of teams down the back order trade out of the first round or trade down. Because if they think that they're going to get a wide receiver fall to them in the second round, they might see value.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, again, we talk all the time about it being a copycat league, but the other thing is, I don't want to say, because everyone's talking about it being a down year. There's a lot of talent out there, but saying that, if the draft starts going in one or two ways, then you'll see a lot of teams trading out, and there's going to be a really, really active first round. I think a lot of teams are just itching just to see who's going to be the first one to blink, and then I think that's going to be a lot of dominoes being set in place.
Just before I move on from you, Kieran, for a moment, who are the Jets going to select at 2, you think? Is it David Bailey or is it Arvell Reese?
Well, I mean, geez, the Jets have holes everywhere. They need one of everybody in this draft. I mean, the Jets are just screaming out for a standout player on defense. I mean, I'm not counting Sauce Gardner, somebody who is famous probably for his name more so than his talent. I think if his name was stated Ahmad Gardner, he wouldn't be nearly as famous as he is right now. But I mean, with the breakdown of Bailey, and Reese, I have to think they're going to go for Bailey. Bailey's just a little bit more mature, a little bit kind of, a bit more at it. Reese is a great player too. It's almost like, 1 and 2. Bailey Jr. out of Texas Tech. He came from Mater Dei High School in California. It's a factory. Trent McDuffie came from there. Bryce Young. You're looking at Quentin Lake, Matt Leinart. So he's already been kind of swimming in that NFL kind of pool since high school days. I love Bailey. I love the work that he did with Texas Tech, who did a lot of work in the Big 12. Big player. Questions on his lower body. Is he as strong on his legs as he is in his upper body? I think the Jets are going to lean more to that. Texas Tech did a lot of work in the Big 12 against some decent teams, not the upper echelon, Bama, Georgia, et cetera. You're talking the likes of Houston, Arizona State. Reese, on the other hand, is more of I don't want to say he's more of a project, but he's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit down a notch from Bailey. Bailey's got everything. Reese has got that potential. I think he's about 235 right now, 240. His goal is going to have to be 255. He's got to put some bulk on that frame. I mean, he had less sacks than Bailey last year. Bailey was 13 and a half sacks, just a standout player with Texas Tech. Reese on a really stacked Ohio State might have got swallowed up a little bit with the downs and the Sonny Styles stuff, but I think for me it's going to be David Bailey. I just think he's too talented of a player. The tape is out there. Reese, I mean, notwithstanding, Reese can play. He can play off the ball linebacker or stand-up edge. So there's that kind of versatility too. When you kind of cut it all down, I think Bailey just has the edge just a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into the stats. They look a little bit better than Reese's this year from 25. But I think all the stuff that's added up into his year with Texas Tech. Again, this is a guy that was at Stanford, smart kid, transferred to Texas Tech for his senior year. So he's got it about him. I think he's a little bit more mature than Reese. And I think it's going to be Bailey for the Jets.